Lynch speech, also known as the Willie Lynch letter, is an address supposedly delivered by a William Lynch or Willie Lynch to an audience on the bank of the James River in Virginia in 1712 regarding control of slaves within the colony. Now, in recent years, it has been widely exposed as a hoax. The letter is to be a verbatim account of a short speech given by a slave owner in which he tells other slave masters that he has discovered the secret to controlling black slaves by setting them one against another. Now, the document has been in print since at least 1970, but it has gained widespread notice in the 1990s when it first appeared on the internet. Now, since then, it has often been promoted as an authentic account of slavery during the 18th century, though its inaccuracies and anachronisms, have led historians to conclude that it is a hoax. Now, first of all, I want to change the narrative about the word hoax. Hoax means a humorous or malicious deception. Well, where's the humor in slavery? And the words from the letter are malicious in its nature, and the author, be it Willie Lynch or someone other than him, was not a point of deception, at least from a racist viewpoint. They clearly look for ways to keep the black man down and continue to do so today because of hundreds of years of corporate hate. And we mark ourselves with self-degradation. So the letter is not a hoax, be it true or not. It's the principle behind it that makes it credible. Now, here's Dr. Price.
Now, last week we left off talking about Willie Lynch. So we want to continue with that and proceed on in our subject. The section of the series that I'm on now is racism. Now, last week I made a statement in the context of my message, and I don't want to be any more misunderstood than I already am. So I want to make this statement to hopefully clarify for some who might not understand. I mentioned just almost as we closed about the fact that many black people in America have low self-esteem, inferiority complex syndrome. So there's still people today, unfortunately, that still have that. And I made mention of the fact that I used to have that too. I used to have a very strong inferiority complex. I felt very uneasy about myself, and I didn't feel very good about myself. And then I made a statement in the context of last week's lesson that I got free. Well, I don't want you to think I got free when God gave me this assignment to deal with race, religion, and racism. And so that now that I'm talking about blacks, that suddenly now I'm taking pride in us, and all of a sudden I'm delivered now and no longer have low self-esteem. For your information, I got rid of my low self-esteem and my inferiority complex 27 years ago when I found out how to walk by faith. That's what set me free. Okay? And I thought, as I've already explained in one of the other lessons, I thought that once a person found out about faith and how to walk in faith, they would rise above the pettiness of racism and racial and color and ethnic prejudice. But I found out, as I've said before, that some people never get by that. And so they're still hung up on it, okay? So I am now doing what I believe God directed me to do, to reach people where they are. You have to reach folk where they are, okay? Now, let's get on with Brother Willie. We're talking about racism. And we're going to look at this as a letter, supposedly a letter, or the Willie Lynch letter, dated 1712. I quote, "Gentlemen, I greet you here on the banks of the James River in the year of our Lord, 1712. First, I shall thank you, gentlemen. First, I shall thank you, the gentlemen of the colony of Virginia, for bringing me here. I am here to help you solve your problems with slaves. Your invitation reached me on my modest plantation in the West Indies, where I have experimented with some of the newest and still the oldest methods of control of slaves. Ancient Rome would envy us if my program were implemented. As our boat sailed south on the James River, named for our illustrious king, whose version of the Bible we cherish, I saw enough to know that your problem is not unique. Rome used cords of wood as crosses for standing human bodies along its highways in great numbers. You are here using the tree and the rope on occasion. I caught the whiff of a dead slave hanging from a tree a couple of miles back. You are not only losing a valuable stock by hangings, you are having uprisings. Slaves are running away. Your crops are sometimes left in the fields too long for maximum profit. You suffer occasional fires. Your animals are killed. Gentlemen, you know what your problems are. I do not need to elaborate. I am here to enumerate. I'm not here to enumerate your problem. I am here to introduce you to a method of solving your problems. Now, every black person and every other ethnic group, but primarily every black person, you need to hear what I'm getting ready to read. Mr. Lynch goes on to say, in my bag here, I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. My method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseer can use it. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I take these differences and make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, envy for control purposes. These methods have worked on my modest plantation in the West Indies, and it will work throughout the South. Take this simple list of differences and think about them. On top of my list is age, but it is there only because it starts with an A. The second is color or shade. There is intelligence, size, sex, size of plantation, attitude of owners, whether the slave lives in the valley, on the hill, east, west, north, south, have fine hair, coarse hair, or is tall or short. Now you have a list of differences. I shall give you an outline of action, but before that, I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than trust, and envy is stronger than adulation, respect, or admiration. The black slave, after receiving this indoctrination, shall carry on and will become self-refueling and self-generating for hundreds of years, maybe thousands. You still here? Don't forget, you must pitch the old black male versus the young black male, and the young black male against the old black male. You must use the dark-skinned slaves versus the light-skinned slaves, and the light-skinned slave versus the dark-skinned slave. You must use the female versus the male, and the male versus the female. You must also have your white servants and overseers distrust all blacks. But it is necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. They must love, respect, and trust only us. Gentlemen, these kits are your keys to control. Use them. Have your wives and children use them. Never miss an opportunity. If used intensely for 1 year, the slaves themselves will remain perpetually distrustful Thank you, gentlemen. End of quote. Now here, listen to this. We African Americans have been, ever since the beginning of slavery, superbly brainwashed. It is a fact that the Willie Lynch letter cannot be historically validated. However, if we go by history, the principles outlined in his letter have been at work among us in no uncertain terms. Even though the Willie Lynch letter cannot be historically proved to be authentic, there is another document that is similar in its purpose. Now, whether it's true or not, in actuality, I can't say. I've searched everywhere. There is no actual historical validation for the authenticity of the Willie Lynch letter. But whether the letter is authentic or not, everything in that turkey is in operation and has been for the last 400 years.
Okay, so here's the backstory for the Willie Lynch letter. The reputed author, William Lynch, identifies himself as the master of a modest plantation in the British West Indies, who has been summoned by the Virginia colony by local slave owners to advise them on problems they have been having in managing their slaves. Now, he briefly notes that their current violent method of handling unruly slaves, be it lynching, though the term is not used, is insufficient, or rather inefficient, and counterproductive. Instead, he suggests that they adopted his method, which consists of exploiting differences such as age and skin color in order to pit slaves against each other. This method, he assures his host, will control slaves at least 300 years. Some online versions of the text attach introductions such as a foreword attributed to Frederick Douglass, or citations falsely giving Lynch's name as the source of the word lynching. The text of the speech has been published since 1970 and is often published with the title, The Making of a Slave. It appeared on the internet as early as 1993 when a reference librarian at the University of Missouri St. Louis posted the document on the library's Gopher server. The librarian later revealed that she had obtained the document from the publisher of a local annual business directory. Though eventually convinced the document was a forgery, the librarian elected to leave it on the Gopher server as she believed that even as an inauthentic document, it says something about the former and current state of African America, but added a warning about its provenance. The text contains numerous anachronisms, including words and phrases such as refueling and foolproof, which were not used until the early 20th century. While historian Roy Rosenweig noted the divisions emphasized in the text, skin color, age, and gender, are distinctly 20th century in nature, making little sense in an 18th century context. Historians, including Rosenweig and William Jelani Cobb, have concluded that the William Lynch speech is a modern hoax. And again, I make mention that using the word hoax is really improper in this context. Forwards attached to some online versions of the speech give the narrator's name as a source of the term lynching and lynch law, even though the narrator rejects lynching. A man named William Lynch did indeed claim to have originated the term during the American Revolutionary War, but he was born in 1742, 32 years after the alleged delivery of the speech. A document published in the Southern Literary Messenger in 1836 that proposed William Lynch as the originator of lynch law may have been a Again, the word hoax, perpetrated by Edgar Allan Poe. I don't know why they're stuck on this word hoax, because hoax, again, is not a proper use of the word in this context. A better documented early use of the term lynch law comes from Charles Lynch, a Virginia justice of the peace and militia officer during the American Revolution. So there you go. But again, the principle and nature of the letter is to keep blacks in their place, have them fight against each other, which you see all the time today. I mean, that's been a progression since from then until now. You see it all the time. We go against each other, we fight one another, light skin versus dark skin, old versus young. And I've had many situations of this, whereas I'm a supervisor at my job, and I'll have someone black come in to the facility where I work, and they'll ask for directions or looking for some particular help. And well, more or less, when they're looking for someone that's in charge of that particular area, without saying anything, they'll bypass me, thinking that I'm not the one to talk to, go to someone they see that's white, and thinking that that white person is the one in charge. And then, to their surprise, that white person will then redirect them back to me, pointing in my direction. And then I'm having this look on my face like, okay, you just walked right by me, did not acknowledge me, did not figure that, okay, maybe I'm the one you need to speak with. No, you see this white person and make a beeline to him and thinking that this is the one you need to talk with. So these things still happen because it's an ingrained mindset that we seem to can't let go of. And you know what? And some of that continues to be because of how we perceive each other and how we act in certain situations. So, it is what it is, but it's going to take an even longer time for us to fully, if we ever get away from this concept within our minds. And seeing how people are today, it's not looking good. Enough said.